When a rogue cardinal resigns, Pope Francis typically pats him on the back, asks him to continue. Now the same rogue cardinal is saying he will personally bless same-sex couples. What now? Join us with the latest from the Eternal City. Church Militant's Rome correspondent, Dr. Jules Gomes. Jules, Cardinal Reinhard Marx of Germany is probably one of the most un-Catholic of cardinals in the world today. Why is he making headlines again?
Brad, last week, Cardinal Marx celebrated his 70th birthday, and he gave an extensive interview to a German media, Merkur, and he made, some pretty defiant statements against what the Vatican, what the Catholic Church has taught for centuries, basically saying that he would personally bless not just any gay couple, but the highest ranking royal in Germany, Austria, who is an open homosexual and who is Catholic.
So in what area in particular is Marx disobeying orders from Rome?
In particular, Marx is defying the Vatican, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, now the dicastery's very categorical ban on same-sex blessings. And this is what he's saying. He's saying we have already decided in the synodal way blessing for people who love each other. That's basically the way we're going. It doesn't matter what Rome says. If we want to do it, we will do it, he says.
Yeah, that word love is so equivocal as to be almost meaningless today. What is love? Cardinal Marx is okay with his priest dishing out same-sex blessings, but what if someone asked him to personally bless a gay couple?
Right. He says that as of now, pastors do not have to wait for permission. Now, you can see how far this has gone, Brad. The horse has bolted. Nobody has bothered to lock the stable door. The Vatican has issued its orders, but it is not doing anything to discipline rogue priests and hundreds of rogue priests, actually, and rogue bishops in Germany. Reinhard Marx is saying if people who love each other ask for a blessing, the pastors will find a way to do it. Now, this is very important because here he then goes on to talk about Duke Franz, who is such a high-ranking royal that there was speculation once upon a time he could be in line for the monarchy, the British monarchy, after Queen Elizabeth died, and he himself declined to do that. The Act of Settlement, of course, would not allow him to do that, permit him to do that, because he's a Catholic, and Catholics cannot ascend the throne of England. But he is in a 43-year partnership with a person called Thomas Greinwald, and when he celebrated his 90th birthday, he sat with his partner openly in the choir stalls at the service, Catholic service. Now, Marx pointed to that and says that if he comes to me and asks me to bless his partnership, what do you want me to do? Of course, I will bless this partnership. I don't have a problem with that. I spoke to them both. That wouldn't have been possible 20 years ago. Should I not be allowed to bless them? Utterly, utterly defiant.
Well, we go back to that 2021 statement from the Dicastery, the Doctrine of the Faith, and said, well, the priest is calling down God's blessing on this, and God can't bless sin, quote unquote. This isn't the only area, though, in which Marx is defying church teaching, is it?
I know this is a complete revolution, Brad, in the area of canon law, liturgical law, which allows only an ordained minister, a deacon or a priest, to preach from the pulpit during Holy Mass. Marx says that lay people are already doing it, and I don't discipline them. Again, he said this has been banned by Rome, but we have to keep working on it.
Wow.
It's astonishing.
Yeah, the word revolution is the key word right there. Marx also wants to let Protestants share in Holy Communion with Catholics. Is that right?
Absolutely. The German bishops, of course, have been demanding this for a long time. And its practice is widespread, and nobody, bats an eyelid at the fact that this is being done. If they had an opportunity, they would even be celebrating Mass with non-Catholic ministers, and in some places it is already being done.
You really have to wonder, is there any semblance of faith, supernatural faith, in the hierarchy there doing these things? Because Protestants, of course, do not believe in the real presence, body, blood, soul, and divinity that Catholics do, and especially transubstantiation. Is Marx, if Marx is really so heterodox, and he is, why did Pope Francis literally plead with him to continue when he actually tried to resign some years back? And why did he resign?
Well, he resigned over serious, over chaos, over sex abuse allegations. And he decided to accept responsibility. Now, this was theatrical because he resigned, and then Pope Francis asked him to take back his resignation. The letters were published in the media, etc., etc. And people noticed that, this was nothing more than theater. It was all a drama. He did not actually intend to resign, and Pope Francis did not actually intend to accept his resignation. Remember, Marx has been one of the closest advisors of Pope Francis, part of his, innermost group of counselors until very recently.
Yeah, the Gang of Nine, we used to call him. I do remember when he was put on the whole show about resigning. It was like late 2018, 2019, when the whole sex abuse scandal broke up, and it really did go over the top as far as theater. Well, Jules, you spoke to one of the most eminent abuse lawyers in the world. What did he tell you about all this?
Well, I spoke to Richard Scorer, who is specialist abuse lawyer at Slayton and Gordon in England. And Scorer, has dealt with hundreds of these cases. He's one of the most prominent voices in the world, if not in Great Britain. And he told me, he said, the Pope's rejection of Cardinal Marx's resignation strongly suggests this saga has just been a pantomime. He said Marx's fake resignation is designed to create the impression of accountability at senior levels in the church, whilst in reality maintaining the status quo. If the church is genuinely going to change, then there needs to be accountability at the top. But yet again, Pope Francis has prevented this from happening, no doubt, because once the principle is established that senior figures have to take responsibility for their actions, questions would arise about the Pope's own position. As we know, Brad, it is now hitting him very hard over the whole Father Marco Ivan Rupnik scandal.
So much for zero tolerance in the Vatican. While many Catholics are worried about the questionable teachings coming out of this pontificate, and even more concerned about possible questionable actions taken by this pontificate, others are ultimately concerned about the lack of action taken to stop anti-Catholic activity in the Church, and especially in Germany. Please pray for the Pope, the Church, and all concerned Catholics that they stay on board the bark of Peter during this very stormy weather. And Jules, thank you so much for catching our viewers up on this troubling story.
Thank you, Brad.